Hi guys, this is GSMDome.com and I'm here with the review of the Motorola Edge 40 Neo, which is a lighter version of the Motorola Edge 40. It comes in a beautiful blue hue, it's called Caneel Bay, it's a special Pantone color. It's got pretty much the same camera as the Motorola Edge 40 and also a very similar screen. Well, what's different? The CPU and some parts of the specs, like for example the battery is larger and has very fast charging and also a charger in the box. You're getting goodies like productivity ones, like Moto Connect, like Ready for, and of course customization extra security via the Moto app. So it's time for the Motorola Edge 40 Neo review, and the price is around 400 euros for this mid-range handset. First of all, we're going to start with the design. It's an IP68 certified device with a leather imitation backside, which is very granular and nice to the touch. It measures 7.9 mm in thickness and weighs 170 grams. It's got a plastic frame, just so you know, and it's quite grippy and well built. The buttons are very slim, the power and volume buttons. They're not very comfy, I'll give you that much. But once again, the build is pretty solid. And also it's pretty easy to handle with a single hand, which is an important feature if you have, well, smaller hands. Now, aside from the Caneel Bay color, we have a black hue, which has a plastic back, not a leather one, and also a soothing sea color, which is basically lime. Now, the screen you're enjoying right here, this one is a P-OLED panel, which stands for Plastic OLED. It's a 6.55 incher Full HD Plus resolution, a curved side screen with 144 Hz refresh rate, shows 1 billion colors and has HDR10 Plus support. The experience is very bright and crisp. It's an immersive screen with curved sides, narrow bezels, deep blacks and white colors, also wide view angles. The contrast was excellent even in the full sunlight. It's a pretty warm September, so the sun still shines. Okay, so putting the clip aside, we're going to see here what we measured. So we actually went ahead and measured the brightness of the screen, which is, by the way, pretty bright. It's a bright panel here. 890 lux units, which is pretty impressive. It goes above the Redmi Note 12 Pro and above the Nothing Phone 2, stays below the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus and below the Huawei Nova 11 Pro, as well as below the Motorola Edge 40. We're leaving behind the screen, we're happy with it, and we're tackling the processor. It's a MediaTek Dimensity 7030 6nm chip of the octa-core variety, and it comes with a Mali G610 MC3 GPU. We're lucky enough to have the better spec version with 12 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage, but there's no microSD. Also, there's no lag here, just so you know, and this CPU is not very far from the 7000 series we found on the Realme 11 Pro and 11 Pro Plus. Once again, no lag in PUBG, Genshin Impact, Diablo Immortal, and also I'm pretty happy to inform you that there are zero problems with throttling, so yeah, that's not an issue here. So if you go here, search for the screenshots, we did a test, a throttling test, and as you can see, we only lost about 20% performance at the end of the test, close to the 15 minutes mark. Otherwise, benchmarks check out. I mean, it doesn't break any records, but it's also no slouch. In Antutu 10, we're beating the Oppo Reno 10. In Antutu 9, we're surpassing the Motorola Razr 40 and the Vivo V23, while at the same time, we're staying below the Galaxy A54 and Huawei Nova 11 Pro. In Geekbench 6, let's see here, multi-core, just above the Galaxy A34 and Oppo Reno 10, below the Galaxy A54 and Huawei Nova 11 Pro. In 3D Mark, Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1, we're above the Vivo V23 and the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S, which is not exactly a landmark. Let's see what other comparison terms we have here. So let's see, 3D Mark Slingshot. The score is actually pretty good. We're below the Galaxy A34 and the Realme 11 Pro Plus, but by a very small margin. That's where we're at. Okay, so all in all, a pretty decent performance for a mid-ranger, but no records. Keep that in mind. I should probably also check out the temperature. So we achieved in benchmarks a mere 40 degrees Celsius, which is fine in my book. Next up, the battery. 5000 mAh lithium polymer. The predecessor had a much smaller one. The Edge 30 Neo had a 4020 mAh unit, while the Edge 40 had a 4400 unit. Now, I had great expectations from this battery, but sadly not exactly confirmed. I mean, 16 hours and 30 minutes of video playback is decent, but somehow I expected a tad more from the battery because it's larger than the one on the Edge 40. It's maybe superior to the Xiaomi 12T Pro and the Redmi Note 12 Pro, but it's below the Edge 40, Galaxy A54 and the Realme 11 Pro Plus. Next up, continuous usage, PC mark, 9 hours and 47 minutes. Also underwhelming, but at least it beats the OnePlus Nord 3 and Huawei Nova 11 Pro. Below Galaxy A54 and below the Honor 90. The charging is decent, requires 53 minutes for a full juice up, and after half an hour you're at 69%. Not bad. Next up, acoustics. We don't have an audio jack, the device is too slim for that. We do have a speaker here and the other one is at the top. It's the earpiece cut in the screen. Now, it's a stereo setup with Dolby Atmos settings, which you're going to find here. Enhancements and options, those ones. Smart audio, music, movie, game, podcast and custom, plus these ones. Bass and treble, equalizer options, surround virtualizer and volume leveler. Okay, actually I think I'm going to stay with the default one for the test I'm about to do for you. Okay, so a pretty impressive experience, a crisp sound, solid bass, nice high notes, and a clean sound. There's no distortion here. I'm actually very happy with the experience we achieved here, and I have to say it's above my expectations a bit, even though you're going to see some results which aren't as impressive. So the decibel meter showed us 80.3 decibels at the top speaker with an acoustic sample test and 76.1 with the bottom speaker. It beats Galaxy A53 and Motorola Edge 30 Neo. It's below the Realme 11 Pro Plus and Huawei Nova 11 Pro. The multimedia test is okay at 98.2 decibels. That's playing Asphalt 9. It's above Huawei Nova 11 Pro, Motorola Edge 40, but below Xiaomi 12 Lite and Vivo V23. Finally, we have reached the camera. This cutout here is for a selfie camera of 32 megapixels, combines 4 pixels in one for 8 megapixel shots, does 4K video and has fixed focus. At the backside, the same dual camera as the Motorola Edge 40, 50 megapixel main shooter with OIS, however the aperture is now f1.8 instead of f1.4. It has face detection autofocus, and there you have a 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera, f2.2 aperture, 120 degrees, and autofocus for your macro needs. We have a generous gallery here of shots we've taken with the handset. It was a mixed day, cloudy at times, sunny at times, but you're going to understand the prowess of the camera. So first of all, I have to say that some of the images felt a bit washed out, particularly the sky area, and I'm not very happy with the details of the ultra-wide capture. Details are being kept to a minimum, particularly in the middle of the picture. Usually that happens at the sides. The sky here has an unrealistic hue, reinforcing my view of a washed out experience. These are the first selfies. They were taken with some sort of beautification, but I definitely love the details. You can see each thread of hair on the beard and in the head, and the very nice texture of the face. The eyes have a nice expression and a quiet detail, but I would skip ahead for the selfies towards the end of the review where I actually deactivated the beautification option, and we have here a very clear detail for the selfies and for the background as well. They're pretty quality selfies, I'll give you that much, and by the end of the review I'm going to say that the selfie camera is a bit more impressive than the main camera. Solidly applied bokeh with a lovely effect. Now speaking of bokeh, I also applied it for the back camera here somewhere. Should be a bokeh effect or two. It's actually applied for this statue of the Pink Panther, and as you can see it's very well highlighted against the blurred background. Now the color calibration. The color calibration is fine, although the colors veer towards being a bit cold, not hot. So yeah, there's that, particularly the blues, and the reds tend to be pinkish at times. I do love the way close-ups are taken. I only referring to close-ups rather than macros, which take a bit of work to actually pull off properly, like this one here. But when you pull them off, they're pretty impressive. Once again, it takes a few attempts to get the right one. Not very convinced by the color calibration here, particularly the reds and the blues. Most times they were cold, some images were washed out, but when the sun came out of the clouds, I was actually happy with the result. So yeah, keep that in mind. The inferior aperture compared to Motorola Edge 40 is definitely felt. I mean, some of the shots in the sunlight are brilliant, they look quite fine, even the ultra-wide ones, but once again, the level of detail drops quite a bit compared to my expectations. You'll be fast to see that in the background there aren't as many details as you'd expect. So keep that in mind. It behaves like a mid-range phone, first and foremost. I would say that it's in the range of a Redmi Note 12 Pro. That's where it's at as a comparison. These are the internal shots, indoor shots, and you can definitely tell we have artificial light instead of sunlight. Things are a bit whiter here. The light falling on the subject is whiter compared to the one outside. The skin has a very curious tone indoors compared to outdoors. So once again, Some disappointments here and there, but the selfies stand out, the close-ups stand out, and also I would say that every now and then there is an impressive gem of a picture if the sun is right. During the night time, you'd be best advised to stick with the night mode, otherwise you will not be very impressed by the results. This is 2x zoom, I wouldn't go further than 3x, and let's try to see a shot without night mode, this one, and with night mode. Definitely an improvement in details and distribution of light. Okay, so this is a shot without the night mode. You can see that the signal here is, the sign is overblown, but with the night mode things are being kept in check. So I also noticed that there is a slight purple reflection appearing every now and then in the image. Once again, a few shots which aren't very impressive, but when you trigger the night mode, this hue of red actually looks realistic. So stick to it, you'll be happy with the results. Some may even be worth posting on social media. These have been the photos. Now let's check out the videos. So if you go here and go to the camera, we have 15 videos, and the most relevant of them all are probably the selfie ones. It's a 4K selfie video capture with stabilization on, and it's good enough for vlogging. I also have one without stabilization. The microphone is fine. We were fighting a bit of a strong wind, but the voice is very pleasant. This is Romanian, in case you're wondering. 4K video with the main camera this time. Lovely colors, perhaps even lovelier than the photo shots. The zoom is underwhelming if you go past 3x, that's for sure. It's not a very memorable experience. I mean, it's decent for a mid-ranger, but it's not something you remember as the years pass. I love the texture and the gloss of the car, and I also love the texture of the dog's fur passing by. So texture is a word you should remember. Of course, we also have a focus test here, passed with flying colors on the foreground and the background and alternating between them, and a bunch of stabilization tests. So for example, this is test number 1, where we have 0 stabilization options activated. You can feel it, the bumpiness of each of my steps. It's 4K, by the way. The second test has stabilization on. You're going to feel that the steps are felt lighter now. You're not feeling the left-right motion of the feet. It's actually quite solid. And finally, horizon lock. We're switching to Full HD. The details are murkier. And what I was doing right now was flipping the phone like this, 90 degrees, and the image is kept like this, horizontal, even though I was flipping the phone like this. That's horizon lock for you. Okay, so somehow the filming feels a bit more impressive than the video. And let's see some nighttime shots. This one here, for example. I mean, the lights are a bit exaggerated, a bit overblown. Not in a dramatic manner, but still, you're going to notice that. Stabilization not half bad. Pretty good details. And I like the colors you can see during the night, particularly the colors when the light is yellow. Usually the yellow light of the street lights influences the shots. This time it doesn't influence them in a bad manner. Pretty solid panning and pretty solid level of details. But at the end of the day, it's still a mid-range phone, and somehow I was more impressed by the selfies and the videos compared to the photos. That's the thing I remember the most here. Okay, now we're moving on from the camera to the connectivity. This device has Wi-Fi 6E, I'm surprised by that. Has 5G, Bluetooth 5.4, and USB-C 2.0 port at the bottom, NFC, GPS, GLONASS, and Galileo. The calls were pretty loud and clear in my book, and we also have a bunch of speed tests to show off. We go here, results, and as you can see, we achieved 192 megapers downloads in 5G and 111 megapers in upload. In Wi-Fi, 734 megapers in download, 809 megapers in upload. I would say we're doing fine, but we wanted a bit more out of the 5G. As far as the software is concerned, this is Android 13 with a touch of Motorola, especially applied to the Moto app. So we have the personalization here with fonts, themes, icon shapes, colors, as well as display size and text layout, fingerprint animation, and more. Speaking of which, the fingerprint scanner is embedded in the screen, it's quite fast. We have the gestures here, quick launch, sidebar, quick capture, fast flashlight, pick up to silence, and do not disturb. Then we have the Moto Secure, with secure folder, phishing detection, network protection, and pin pad scramble, which messes up the figures of your pin in order for people not to read them over your shoulder. We have also tips and display, lock screen, attentive display, and edge lights, plus the play area with options for gaming, which you can find here, including a Moto Game Time, sidebar, screen recording and blocking gestures, plus the options for Dolby Atmos and media controls. Aside from that, we can opt for these buttons here for navigation, or you can opt for swipe gestures. This is the recent area, and this is the drop down area, which is pretty clean and stock-like, so if you've seen a Pixel, you know what to expect here. I also see there is a GIF maker here for some reason. We have the leftmost feed for news, and at the same time, if you keep the screen pressed, you're going to see the stock widgets, which you'll probably find on most Android phones, but also some Moto widgets to help you with your tasks. Other Motorola contributions and extras. Well, we have Family Space. Basically, it's a way to create a profile for your little kid with restrictions for apps and timers. Aside from that, there's Moto Connect, so you can connect to the screens around you, to the displays around you, and you can see them here. Oh, there's also the Ready For, which lets you turn your phone into a webcam for your PC, do app streaming, create a mobile desktop environment with a keyboard and a mouse, do screen sharing, file transfer, hotspots and smart clipboard, and you can get started with a PC or tablet. That's pretty much it if you ask me. If there are other things, you can probably refer to them in the settings department. There's connectivity, personalization, sound and vibration, notifications, gestures, battery, passwords, and so forth, plus digital well-being. Okay, when everything's said and done, I think it's time for the verdict, and I feel the need to remind you which website you're looking at. So this is GSMDome.com. We're being treated here to a pretty good looking mid-range phone, at the same time a lighter version of the Motorola Edge 40. So the Motorola Edge 40 Neo has the following pros. It's comfy and easy to use with a single hand. It's sexy in this color. It has IP68 certification. It's got a 144Hz screen, which is excellent for gaming. Very bright screen, solid stereo speakers. There's the interface here and its extras, the Motorola extras for productivity. Performance is fine and the selfies are quality. Pretty good close-ups, stabilization and night mode, and filming overall. And there's also a charger in the box. When it comes to the drawbacks, the battery life could be better. Some washed out pictures and videos. I also have to say that the buttons are pretty slim in order to be comfy. The ultrawide camera didn't impress me. We only get 2 years of Android updates. And well, that's about it. At the end of the day, the CPU and screen together make this a mid-range gaming phone, which is something you do not see every day. So it's pretty much a niche, a welcome niche nowadays. Now, aside from that, I would have to say that this feels like a student's phone. A student will probably have this budget for the handset and will probably focus on the music and also focus on the vlogging and gaming abilities. Pay attention to the battery lags here and also the details of the pics. Those are the main drawbacks. But at the end of the day, you can do some gaming, you can do some vlogging, you can do some selfies and some music. Definitely a young man's phone. So yeah, maybe with some updates the camera can also get better, but we're talking about details here, so I'm not very sure about it. It's very good looking and very comfy, that's a certainty. Goodbye.